Welcome to our allotment. You can see there are several allotments next to us, 3 in fact, that have not been cultivated this year. It's hard to understand why they haven't been handed over to someone else, but it kind of makes it quieter for us, I suppose. But one of the things about allotments is it's like having a baby. You keep looking around at other people's babies to see what they're doing that's different to you or better. And we don't have many people to compare our allotment with. So I've been looking on the internet and seeing what people are doing. And I thought, well, why not make a video myself of what we're doing? And then in future years I have something to compare it to. So this is us. The date is the 18th of June, almost midsummer. And things are beginning to grow quite well. In the foreground are some climbing peas. This was a new idea that we tried this year. I don't think they're very good to eat fresh, but you can dry them and make pea soup like the medieval monks. Next to that is some brassicas. There's a mixture. There are cabbages and broccoli. I don't know what kind. I got them from the garden centre as seedlings. Next to the broccoli you can see onions coming up. They always seem to be a bit slow, but at least when you look at the patch now it looks more green than brown. And behind them, the browning onion-like things are garlic. In that corner between the climbing peas and the garlic, I've planted a little patch of sweet corn. One of them's been chewed up. There aren't very many in the first place. There's about 9 or 10. So I might have to go around and knock their heads together to get them fertilised. And on the teepee, those are climbing French beans. And this is a courgette, just starting to produce fruit, although not very big as a plant yet. Down here in the pea bed, the climbing peas, Chris put in a couple of melons, outdoor melons. Although it's midsummer now, I suppose they have still got some time to grow. And they're also expected to climb up the wire. There are 2 kinds of garlic. The one on the right was much slower coming up. About halfway through the winter I thought they were dead, but then they started to show. And the other ones were really vigorous. But both of them are dying down already. And the ones on the left have quite good sized bulbs, I think, but the ones on the right haven't really filled out. Again, I don't know what variety they are. We got them from the allotment shop. So they're special sorts of garlic that are adapted for growing in our colder weather. I suppose the advantage of keeping a diary and making notes is you know what to get next time, what works and what doesn't. But if you get a variety each time, then you know you have more chance of some of it working. So this is the bean area. On the left are the overwintered European broad beans. It's a special variety that I got from Butser Ancient Farm, where they do experimental archaeology. And I suppose they were growing them because it's an older type of bean. It's smaller than the ones you get from seed shops. And I thought it was nicer because it was a bit sweeter and less pungent. The taste of broad beans is not that wonderful, I don't think, but anyway, they're growing okay. They did get blown by the wind in the winter. That net thing that's behind them, it was down during the winter, and the gales blew across and sort of devastated them a bit. Same as the garlic, I guess. So I think it's a good thing to have a windbreak. I got very enthusiastic about beans in the last couple of years because a few years ago I visited Rwanda, where I have a sponsored child, and I saw how they grow their food and how they live, and what they live on mainly seems to be beans and rice. And if large parts of the world are living on beans and rice, then I felt it would be good to try beans myself. There's a lot more than just the general standard varieties that you get traditionally here. These ones are mostly a cranberry bean that I got from an American heirloom seed catalogue. So they're small and red, a bit like kidney beans but smaller. And in the middle, between the 2 bamboo stands, they're a field bean, beaker brown. They're small and hard and shiny and a beautiful shade of brown. They're just so beautiful to handle. And then behind them is another bamboo stand, and that's got the traditional runner beans. But last year I picked out some of the runner beans that, well, what I did was I let them go to seed, quite a lot of them. I thought, I wonder what they're like as a dry bean, because we always just eat them green, and there's always so many, and they go on for such a long season. And then at the end, they're just sort of dying out. So I thought I'd dry some and try them as a dry bean. And they were actually quite meaty and pleasant when you stew them up again and put them in stews. So I picked out the biggest ones. I thought, if I'm going to grow them for seeds, I'll see how they come out if I choose the fattest seeds from the crop. So I don't know if they're going to be any good as runner beans, but we'll see. And behind them, the rhubarb has really taken off. We only planted it there in the winter. I mean, it was where it was before, was at the other end of the plot. It wasn't thriving at all. It was practically disappeared in the undergrowth. So it's really good that it's come back with such vigour. We've already had quite a lot of rhubarb crumble from it. So there it is, the splendid rhubarb. Oh, and look, the runner beans are just starting to flower. They may be a bit behind some people's runner beans, but I'm quite proud of the way they've all grown up. And there's some chard down there, which is self-seeded, and up there as well, the other end. I grew some rainbow chard last year, but it didn't come to very much, and I let it go to seed, and the seeds are all in the compost, which I put on the bean bed. So I thought I'd let some come up. If they want to come up, let them come up. 2 crops for the price of 1. So this is my seed bed. It looked like it was a real disaster for many weeks because nothing seemed to be coming up. I didn't water it that regularly, but I still expected things to come up. And we've got moles on the allotment, and all you could see was the mole holes. But now there's quite a respectable row of carrots there, and another one there. I transplanted some of them, put them in the middle, because when I sowed the seeds, they seemed to have come out all in clumps, so I had to dig up some of the clumps. And I understand you're not meant to transplant carrots, but I thought, why not? Shame to waste them, really. These 2 rows are supposed to be parsnips. That's another chard. There's 2 parsnips so far. These are turnips, and again they're patchy. Though the ones that have come up are doing okay. I should probably thin them. The thing about weeding is it never goes away. You still have to weed. We've covered this with a layer of mulch, green waste compost. Still you get the odd weed coming through. And also, perhaps it's not the best thing as a seed bed because it's very fine and dry and powdery, and it doesn't retain the moisture well. That feathery stuff next to the turnips is fennel. I thought it would be nice to grate in salads. It's coming up quite well. You can see the stems are thickening out into bulbs. All that string, we laid out the rows so nicely for the seed beds, and almost every string has been snapped in 2, I think by a bird with a big beak. Maybe a crow? Maybe a pigeon, who knows? Strong big pigeons around here. Behind the fennel, another row of European broad beans. Chris planted them this spring. So they're not as far on as the overwintered ones, but they're looking a lot healthier because they didn't get the wind. And behind them there's a bed of strawberries with some ripe strawberries already in them and masses of slugs. And beyond the strawberries there's a row of peas there. They are plants that Chris grew first in pots and then planted out. And they've certainly done better. Oh, you can see they're flowering already. They've done better than the first couple of rows which he put over here somewhere. You can see the pea sticks, but there's not much coming up at the bottom because, of course, the pigeons get them before they grow. And beyond the peas, there's another teepee. These are another climbing bean for drying. It's sort of brown and speckled, and I can't remember what it's called again. And behind that, the two brassica tunnels. On the left, we have cauliflowers, and on the right, we have more broccoli, calabrese, and cabbages. The cabbages are filling the tunnel, and I think the broccoli is pushing its way out there. And here, to the right of the brassicas, is our potato bed, looking rather splendid. That's Chris's baby. He dug out all the trenches and he carefully laid in all the potatoes to the prescribed depth, and he earthed them up, and you can see they appreciate it, can't you? And here's some first earlies that he's apparently dug up this morning. Not huge. They could probably do with another week, I think. This here is a squash that I grew from seed from last year. It's called a Hokkaido Blue, and I'm trying growing it in the compost heap, which is mostly it's still just dead grass really. I dug a hole in the middle and mixed compost in before I planted it. It's looking quite good. There are lots of seedlings of other squashes. There's a squash seedling, and I can't really let them grow here. I've already pulled out 3 and transplanted them into pots, and we'll see what they come out like if I can find another place to put them. But we've more or less filled the area now. So moving on, beyond the brassicas, we've got the asparagus bed. The asparagus bed is full of asparagus beetles. Sorry, asparagus beetles. So there's my little leeks. And the field beans, a couple of rows of those, and then the baby corns behind them. Swivelling round, there's our shed. This is the soft fruit cage, which is burgeoning. There's gooseberries in the front and josti berries at the back. And in front of that, on the sort of more or less southern side, is another bed of strawberries. The area behind this, between the soft fruit and the fence, was just a mess of old brambles and bed springs and things. We were advised by the allotment lady to leave it as brambles so that the kids wouldn't be climbing over to fetch their footballs, because there's a playground beyond there and they play football. But of course it never stopped them. If your football goes over the fence, you're going to get it, aren't you? And also we've run out of space, so we decided to dig up the bramble roots, which is quite hard work, and I've created a little forest garden area there. So this is a plum tree that's been in a few years. The variety is Warwickshire Drooper. I do remember that because it's such a funny name. It's doing quite well after its difficult start when the wind scraped some bits of scrap wood up and down its trunk. But you can see it's healed up quite well. And next to that we have the recently cultivated patch. I've got yet more beans. They're a black variety like Cobra, something like that, climbing bean. And on either side of the beans are the blue Hokkaido squashes, the other 2 plants that I've planted. And then on this side, it's another plum tree just planted this spring. Here's Chris pruning the josti berries.
Well, you can see how much growth they've put on in somewhere between 6 and 8 weeks. And this thing's a thug. It's climbing outside the fruit cage.
Yeah, fruit cage wasn't big enough.
The fruit actually grows on last year's wood. You see the berries forming there. And so I'm leaving 1, 2, 3 leaves of the new growth to put some more new wood on next year, but it doesn't have to be that long, so I'm just shortening them all back at this point.
And finally, there are some little plums coming on the plum tree, and behind that there is an apple tree. It's quite short because it had its head knocked off, also by the wind blowing stuff. But it has got lots of apples, so let's hope they're nice ones.